conspiracy people on the right will be like, I gotta trust this guy that murdered some people at his word.
Yeah, he did it for communism.
Yeah,
he did it
barely.
He did it on the orders of the
they said that
Communist
he
Democratic Party.
Tim Walz told him to shoot Amy Klobuchar so he could like run for her chair or something like that, or her Senate seat.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was Klobuchar. He claims that Walz instructed him, Manchurian Candidate style to whack Klobuchar, which is
an insane conspiracy. Because it's insane, but also, like, this is going in with the assumption that people think Amy Klobuchar is charismatic, which she is just like not. Like, she would not be a hard person to defeat in like an election if it was like Tim Walz versus her. Like, Tim Walz would clean shop. Like, it's a wild part of the conspiracy theory that we have to assume that she's this unstoppable force.
I do think she'd be difficult to defeat in like single combat.
I mean, she does have a history of like assaulting people.
Yeah, she has an X factor. She does have an X factor that I think you're not realizing, which is that she can summon firefighters at will to come and protect her.
Is this something that happened in like the primary?
There's just
she got horny for firefighters.
She's just very horny for them. She poses with them a lot. Yeah,
she's like a necromancer, but for public servants. You can just like.
No, every Pride, I think she posts that photo of the like really beefed up firefighters and is like, you know what I want to do tonight, and they love her. The firefighters love her. I forgot about those photos.
She is like a Bond villain in terms of like, you know what, like throwing an object, like a like a comb or something.
Yeah, or like a hole punch. I'm imagining her throwing like a really heavy single hole punch.
She killed like 6 interns.
Yeah, one shotting an intern with a hole punch.
This is the real conspiracy theory, and the right wingers are not in on it. They don't.
Where are the
know.
bodies?
Yeah,
no, she's murdered. One day we need to do the actual conspiracy theory that I'm obsessed with, which is that Joe Scarborough killed one of the women that worked in his office.
Is this a legitimate theory that people have?
Yes.
Oh no. Okay, can you explain? I've never heard this before.
Wait, Caleb, do you know about this at all, or no?
Completely flying blind.
Oh my god, really? Oh, I love this one so much.
I've heard that conspiracy theory exists, but that's it. Didn't Trump tweet about it one time when they were like beefing?
He did. When Joe Scarborough when Joe Scarborough was like being mean to him online, he like brought it up. But basically,
Morning Joe killed his intern.
He resigned. He resigned almost immediately after this woman died in his office, and like I haven't read. I mean, I've read a lot about it, but I haven't read, I don't know if this part is true, but apparently, like, she was, like, in the office and the door was locked, and she was found, like, with a hemorrhage, basically.
Oh.
Like, and she apparently, like, fell and hit her head or whatever. But the real rub is that the guy who did the autopsy was, like, a total crank. And was like literally lost his license in multiple states for like faking things on autopsy reports. And like that is like factually, that is true. Like that is a fact of the case that this guy had covered up a bunch of stuff. So I think that was partially where the conspiracy theory came from. But also he did leave politics at that exact time. Like he left, like this woman died in his office and he left politics. So like, and he was like, I'm going to focus on my family now. And then he became Morning Joe.
A totally new life.
Yeah, that's
was the mortician like baking stuff for fun or like being instructed?
He was partially, apparently he was like a nutcase, like he was keeping organs and stuff of people.
Okay.
But
so he's a psycho for the love of the game, is what it sounds
like.
For
the love of the game, yeah.
That's what I wanted to know.
But he did have what I mean is he had a history of like falsifying reports on autopsies. So, which is a pretty lucrative side hustle if you guys are looking for a new business in 2025.
Damn. Well, the music industry is really taking a nosedive right now, so maybe it's time to go back to school. Yeah.
Is there a reason why that is with the music industry?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's like a lot of like streaming and like them paying pennies and stuff, but like, is there something that like just happened recently?
No, it's what I would call, it's what like climate people call a polycrisis. You know, it is. But I think the blame could I mean, streaming is kind of just a side effect of essentially the entire management class, the music industry. So your managers, your booking agents, your publicists, the entire sort of white collar side of the music industry has been completely ensorcelled for the last 15 years by the idea that because the internet exists, that there will be unlimited money, right? Like, so a publicist is their function, because print media and like a lot of online media is dead or dying. Publicists now function to tell you that their function is to basically either get you on television or tell you to get more Instagram followers. No one really knows what works anymore. Like, booking agents, managers have all sort of abdicated responsibility to various different algorithms, like, Live Nation's ticket algorithm. I mean, ticket sales are now basically like traded on secondary markets as like, high volume, complex financial instruments, and not actually tickets. So it's becoming more and more impossible to tell how a band will perform in any given market. And anyone who had the institutional knowledge to be able to like drill down and figure that out are being replaced by like a 21-year-old who sees this job as a stepping stone to some kind of app that they will make. Like the industry is now filled with people who think they are entrepreneurs or will eventually become entrepreneurs. Yeah, this is just part of it. I mean, the other thing is like reflective of the greater economy, which is after COVID, vendors and venues were basically like, we need to charge more money to make up the money that we lost. So if you're in a band and you were, say, paying $1,500 to rent a 15-passenger cargo van to do a tour of California, right? You are now going to pay $3,500. Maybe you pay a little less because it's all like algorithmically priced, like airline tickets or hotels. And the general idea in the industry was that, okay, this is going to last for a year, maybe, and then things will normalize. But essentially what it did was it let all these vendors know they can charge whatever they want forever.
So they're like the landlords of the music industry, basically.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. It's the same with equipment rental. It's the same with, so the response by management when bands were like, hey, we're not making any money on this tour, your manager is always going to make 20% of gross. So they're not really invested in making sure that your net is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This sounds like really good news, Dan, because I just wanted to have more entrepreneurship. When I think of music and art, I think of like, how can we maximize profits?
Exactly.
What's our growth margin? Yeah. No, all of that is what you want to think about when making art, just generally. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the sort of the short and long-term effects of this over the last like 5 years has been at South by Southwest over the last, pre and post pandemic, there'd be panels, right? And your dumbass manager would go to a panel entitled Increasing Your Fan Base with the Power of NFTs.
Yes.
Hell yes.
And then 2 years would go by and they'd go to a dumbass panel entitled like Increasing Your Fan Base with AI chatbots.
Yeah.
That shit. No, you're so right. So I went to South by for the first time just for a couple of days this last year, and I was put on like a guest list for this one panel, just someone I knew that was like hosting a party for some company. She's like, if you want to come, you can come. You can just walk right in. And I didn't know what the party was until I got in, and there was like a panel. It was a panel discussion plus like meet and greet, and it was a very similar thing where it was like they got on stage and they were like, who here uses AI? And like some people raised their hands, and there was like, who here is a content creator? Some more people rose their hands, and then who here is a content creator who purely uses AI? And like 3 people raised their hand, and they were like, and that's what we're here to talk to you about today. And I was like, I had to get out of there. It was fucking disgusting. Oh my God.
Yeah. I think what happened was in the mid 2000s, like I'd say up till 2012, the idea of unlimited growth, that the good times were going to last forever. And it's like, it's reflected in the songs that were being written then, and the festival attendance, that was peak Coachella time. That baked itself into the industry, and when it started failing, they don't have any other buttons to press. So people quit, and the people who replace the people who quit are part of the fraud economy. So now the fraud economy is baked into music, unfortunately. It was kind of resistant to it for a while, but now it's there. So
I mean, everything's kind of the fraud economy at this point. Like everything is, from what you were describing, like the ticket resellers, everything is a stock market, essentially. Yeah. Everything is flipping. Everything is trying to get value out of an investment.
Yeah, it's all financialized. So, a secondary market ticket seller will buy up a block of Beck tickets, for instance, and then bet against another show. That's usually happening under the same, booking umbrella. It'll all be Live Nation, but they're betting against each other. And then, the results of these bets will create money for the reselling market. And none of it, I guess the bottom line is none of it goes back to the artist. So there is kind of almost the same amount of money floating around. It's just not as evenly distributed as it was, say, in 5 years.
That's a great sign for a healthy economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the future is bright.
Not to be a total doomer, though, because I live in the Midwest, and I do go to a bunch of hardcore shows in and around Columbus. And
there's a lot of good hardcore, like low DIY events these days. Yeah.
Like there is real energy in that scene, and I'm not sure if it's enough for bands like Liquid Mike or Equipment or any of those bands to be making money in a way that they can quit their day job. But there are people at the shows, people are buying records, and there's a lot of excitement around it. So I think that's something.
No, you're totally right about that. If you, I'm trying to find the name, but there's this local Chicago band, a hardcore band called Splitjaw. Highly recommend them. You know them. You know Splitjaw?
Yeah, I've heard them.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, they're really fucking good. Welcome back to Western Kabuki. It's a nice, hot, moist day. I'm a little drippy. I'm a little glistening. We're getting blasted. I'm in New York right now. But New York is getting blasted by a heat wave. Chicago's getting blasted by a heat wave right now. It's a little bleak out there right now. Climate change.
You dumb suckers. It's like 60 degrees and raining here today.
Are you kidding me? See, okay. All year, that sounds horrible. I would never want to be in a place.
All the time, I'm ready to kill myself, but then I hear about this heat dome or whatever. I'm like, no, actually, I'm pretty set today.
No, the trade-offs seem worth it. Like wanting to kill yourself to just constant, pretty nice weather. No, that seems worth it. Because this is kind of brutal.
Every year, if you're from the Pacific Northwest, you have to survive. You don't kill yourself. You have to live just long enough to gloat when the heat domes happen to everybody else. Then you kill yourself next year.
I grew up in British Columbia, just north of where you are, and
oh, nice.
You're absolutely right. You gotta buckle down. You gotta not kill your pimps. Do not commit suicide. And then you're ready for fucking fire season, baby.
Yeah, dude, you can't wait any day now.
Okay, that's a good point. We don't have those, although in Chicago about a month ago, we had our first a desert storm. We had
you had a smoke day when I was there.
It was like a dust storm. Yeah, it was insane. It was the first ever storm. You could not see outside at all. That was not great to see. Whenever you have a weather event that is the first time of that event in an area, that's you always want to hear about that. But no, Caleb, you were saying that when you visited for the live show, we had fire from Canada, smoke or something. It was really hard to breathe. It's been
very
really hard
mild
to breathe
compared
lately.
to. I mean, I'm not trying to big dog you or whatever, but it was very mild compared to West Coast fire season. But I could still notice it.
Yeah,
when I first got there, I was like, "Why does it suck to walk around? What is this? It feels like fire season." And then I looked on my phone and was like, "Oh, well, there you go."
Yeah, I mean, on an Ontario, I live in northeastern Ohio, and an Ontario forest fire, those trees they're just little, And in British Columbia, in the Pacific Northwest, you get these big, fat, majestic Douglas firs that go up just like a giant fort. And
Yeah, see, I think that I'll take the trade-off of it's kind of a little hot sometimes rather than possibly going to be engulfed in fire at a moment's notice. I'll take that trade.
Or suicidally depressed.
Yeah. I don't really think the fire's ever really a danger from where I'm at, but like the suicide is what's going to get me.
Yeah.
What
Stay
about,
strong.
No, but the thing is, the whole thing is going to fall into the fucking ocean. That's
what?
the thing.
Wait, what's the whole thing?
You're talking about
the big one, baby.
The big one.
The big one.
And you know what the thing is? Everybody else that lives out there, they're like, oh, it's fine. It's okay. It's only a 75% chance that it happens in the next like 50 years or whatever. It's going to fucking happen. And it's going to happen. I'm such a doomer about the big quake. I'm like, whenever the worst possible time for this thing to happen is, that's when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Which is in the next 4 years. So.
Yeah, which is in the next 4 years. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be...
Waypoint.com/Western Kabuki to help me get out of Washington State.
The Pacific Northwest, they're finally going to do Cascadia, where British Columbia, Oregon, and Washington
the day
all
after it's
join up.
ratified, the big one happens.
They're going to make diplomatic overtures to the People's Republic of China, and it's going to be amazing. and then the big one is going to happen.
I'm ready for it. I can't wait
I've
to
said
be
this
just
on this show.
Yeah.
But like the major fault line. There's like a couple ones that they
house.
think it's literally if you follow it, it's like fucking under where
That's
I'm
kind of
recording
nice.
from.
That's kind of nice in a way.
If it happens, I'll just get swallowed by the earth. I won't have to worry about what happens next.
You'll just you won't have to worry for like an extended period of time. You will just fall into the earth. Yeah.
You're gonna pop out the other side in the ancient, continent of Lemuria.
Yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
You'll find the continents beyond the ice wall. They're actually under the earth.
That's right.
Yeah. But we have with us this week, we have Caleb. How are you doing?
Well, after thinking about that, I mean, it's kind of nice where I won't have to do the suicide myself. I'll just let the earth do it for me.
Yeah, no pressure. Just no pressure. It's just it's all determined. Don't even worry about it.
God's got me.
And we got Lolo. How are you doing today?
I'm just feeling really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling really good, honestly, because I just found out that one of the pilots for the B-2 bomber that went and dropped munitions all over Iran, starting an active direct warfare with Iran and America, was actually flown by a woman.
That's huge.
Just like the meme.
It's really nice.
Literally, they did it. They were like, we have to make this come to real life. We have to give a woman a chance for once. We have to give a woman a chance to do war crimes.
Could you imagine it being like Trump just being like, we didn't let her fly it. She was sitting on it, but we didn't let her fly it. She pressed the button.
I hate to be like kind of like a meddling lib here, but did you guys see that Trump tweeted about that? And he truthed about it. And said the great B-2 pilots have just landed safely in Missouri. Thank you for a job well done. And then he signed it in all caps. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, but he spelled his name Donakd. Donald Trump.
Donald, it's the new Kafifi.
Donna.
Donna.
I just minor spelling issues, whatever. But if you're gonna sign your own tweet, you gotta get your name right. You gotta get that.
That's not doing anything.
No, I'll always love a misspelling. That's like what you roast someone in a group chat for, right? That's like you mess that shit up, you're never gonna live that down.
And we have fucking idiot.
Don't have to. And we also have with us today Dan Boeckner. You are in the band Wolf Parade and many others. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm just enjoying northeastern Ohio. We are also under the dome right now.
It's not great out there. At least
What's
what?
The temperature?
At least...
Say what?
What's the temperature?
It's 1,000 degrees in Ohio right now.
I'm gonna give it in. Hold on, I'm gonna give it in Celsius because
You're torment.
It's 29 degrees Celsius, but it feels like it's 35. So
you just hate Americans. You just hate us.
I love Americans. I love living in America. I I enjoy living in this country. I was gonna say, like, you know, a lot of Canadians are critical of America and the American government.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any women in any cockpit of any plane that we sent to bomb Libya. So,
so we kind of have the edge.
Facts.
We have the edge over you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that for women. I love that for war crimes and war in general. That's huge. That's fucking massive. But before we get into some of the news that we're going to talk about this week, I just, since you lived a lot of your life in Canada, so my roommate, her girlfriend is Canadian, and I have
she
noticed real? She is real. I've met
She's
her.
a real Canadian girlfriend. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But something I've noticed is right after the 2024 election, I made some posts online about how Minnesota could join Canada. Like they're like sister states, basically. They're very similar culture-wise, people-wise. They're basically, there's a lot of crossover in the cultures in I feel like Canada and Minnesota. And a lot of Canadians were really upset about that and were like, we don't want Minnesota. We don't fucking want Minnesota.
They've never been to I guarantee
Minnesota's
you, like,
cool, dude.
80% of these people have not been to Minnesota. They've just spent their entire life in Saskatoon or whatever. Like, fuck off. Like, go visit Minnesota and then say you don't want it, you know?
Like, if you just, like, drop ship someone to Minnesota, they would still think they're in Canada. They would have no fucking clue.
Yeah, it's just things are a little bit bigger and the fast food options are a little more plentiful. And that's it, you know?
Yeah.
That's all.
There's some Canadians out there that really hate Minnesota. So I'll get to the bottom of that one day.
That's bizarre. I've never heard that. There's a lot of general, like, very incredibly impotent anti-American sentiment in Canada right now. But I've never heard of anyone singling out Minnesota.
Today's their day.
They've been
Fuck
doing
Minnesota.
the thing. You have a new president. It's Mike Myers.
Yeah, Michael Myers. Man, I had one of the worst experiences of my life on stage with Mike Myers.
Wait, what happened?
Wait, you said that George Bush doesn't like black people, and he was like, not again.
Yeah, he flipped out. I was playing a show with a band, who I'm not going to name, but we had a string of shows at Bowery Ballroom, and the band had decided we were going to donate to a Ukrainian organization, and Mike Myers came out, introduced the band, and I was in this small little alcove beside the stage. There's no real side stage at Bowery, and he came out to introduce the band's encore, and he said, this band he said, Ukraine is a lot like me when I was going to comedy school or whatever. Like, no one believed in me, and no one believes in Ukraine.
Aww.
And then he said, Slava Ukraine, Slava Heroim, and I was just like kind of dying on the side stage. And the lead singer of the band was getting impatient with Mike Myers' speech and started poking me and was like, go out there, get at the keyboard, play the drone. I was supposed to play a drone. Play the drone, and we're going to come on, and that'll be that. So I quietly got behind Mike Myers on stage, not to disturb his speech, and I started playing the drone, and the second my finger hit the keyboard, his head snapped around, and he said, oh, you're playing me off? Are you playing me off?
Oh.
And I was like, dude, it's not my choice. And then we played the encore. And that was my interaction with Mike Myers.
So not a great one. It didn't end well for anyone there.
He's 0 for 2.
Yeah. I was not, for the record, I was not playing him off.
To this day,
My
I'm sure
favorite
he
thing
still
about
thinks that,
the
though.
Mike Myers and Kanye situation is that Kanye just happened to be wearing the Chris Chan shirt when all that went down.
Did he intentionally wear that
Watch
shirt?
that
Was he
clip
like,
again? He's definitely wearing that.
like, did he know what he was wearing though? Because I always think that whenever I see that clip, because it so clearly is that sweater. Is he tuned into that in those days?
No, I don't think Chris Chan existed back then.
Oh, probably not.
Just a sign of the times. Shit. Those shirts were like, when I was in 7th grade, like everybody had a shirt like that.
It was a big design, apparently. You know what? I still, whenever I see that just out in public, I saw it when I was in Texas earlier this year. I did see someone wearing that, like, that clearly didn't know about Christian. They just thought that design was kind of cool, and it's just all I can think of whenever I see that sweater design. But yeah, so Iran. We got women bombers. Do we want to open talking about the Iran? Do we want to talk about the war? Do we want to talk about war?
Yay!
Yeah, let's talk about the war.
Specifically, so the Tucker and Cruz interview happened. I feel like that's like the most interesting thing to lean into this discussion with, because like who fucking knows what's going to happen at any moment's notice. Earlier today, JD Vance went on, or I think he just posted a video on his social media where he was like, we don't want regime change, we don't want boots on the ground, we don't want war. And like 2 hours ago, Trump made a post on Truth Social saying, we want regime change, we will get it at all costs. So it's clearly changing by the minute. No one knows what's happening. But that Tucker and Cruz interview, yeah.
I just want to say, like, I feel like probably one of the most interesting things that's happened in the last couple of years, like during Trump 1 and now Trump 2 or whatever, however you want to like define his two fucking administrations. But
right.
I think we've been watching in real time the entire political establishment understand that they don't even have to like lie anymore, really. Like that actually the American people are so disengaged, not just disengaged, but feeling like so powerless and like not not really paying attention or whatever, that they don't really even have to lie. Like the way that this whole thing was constructed was like everybody knew that it was like instantaneously everybody knew that we were sort of involved in this thing, right? I mean, even before this Ted Cruz, like the Ted Cruz interview was kind of where they were somehow we're in this like bizarro universe where Ted Cruz is just like where Tucker Carlson is fucking up Ted Cruz. And like using his evil.
That.
I know.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, it was hard what. It was satisfying to see Cruz squirm. But Carlson, he's a shitbag, and he always will be a shitbag. It's just more of an indictment of the rest of the media than anything else.
Sure. And I mean, I don't think that's a guy with a moral compass or anything like that. It's just
no.
But I also think it's kind of like,
well, if you listen to the whole interview, he starts it off by saying like, hey, Ted Cruz, like we agree on like 80% of the same things, and like he like still in that interview uses like very explicitly like white nationalist dog whistles and stuff like that. So like you can laugh at the fact that Ted Cruz got owned, and you can honestly say that Tucker Carlson has been kind of on a run lately. Those things are true. Let's just keep it a buck and remember who this guy is, because he doesn't hide it. He's not like based left Tucker Carlson or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I mean, even when he was still on Fox News, he was always sort of leaning into that. Now that he's just not on Fox News, I feel like he's a little bit more open, which is crazy because he was already pretty open at the time about his like leanings with like white nationalism. And I think you're right that's kind of an indictment on the media that like sadly these like white nationalists.
Yeah, why do we have to see Ted Cruz get grilled by fucking Tucker? That's pathetic.
Yeah, it's a horrible state of the media.
Yeah.
And then, like, there's just a weird rise of these white nationalists taking up the space. Like, I don't know if you guys see Nick Fuentes on Twitter. He just passed like 1 million followers on there. Yeah. It's like these people are growing their audience.
They've been doing this like since October 7th. I knew like what's the Jake Shields MMA guy, and some of these people are just like, they just hate Jews, so they're going to like use like the correct. They're going to slowly learn how to use the correct, palatable language to like draw in as many people as possible.
But you can always tell.
Continue to doggle. You can usually tell if you're paying attention who's like, who actually has a valid critique of like the existence of Israel, or who's just like a fucking Nazi or whatever. But like, it's
like if the meme is getting posted in the meme getting posted in the replies, then chances are it's not in good faith. and this person
Yeah.
is not like having international solidarity with the struggle of the Palestinian.
It's really a shame that this is kind of where we're at, where we have this like media landscape where no one really trusts like establishment media at all in any capacity. So now we kind of have to outsource a lot of that to just scrolling and consuming headlines and just surrounding us with people having opinions, which, you know, I enjoy. I've always been in that sort of sphere for decades now at this point. I've always just really enjoyed that. But
Yeah.
it leaves an opening where the media just is atrocious, where it gives these really bad faith actors a lot of influence. Because you said people usually know, but there is a lot of people. I feel like if you're tuned in enough, you will know. You can tell those warning signs. But there is a certain type of person too that will launder these people. Richard Hanania is one of those people where they'll
Right.
just be
He
like,
launders the
oh
enemies.
yeah, where he is like this far right guy. But he is able to position himself in liberal circles around like Matty Iglesias and these
Yeah,
types.
through like respectability politics or whatever.
Which
And
I
I
just
feel
don't.
like-
I just
and
don't.
he's-
I fucking don't. I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't fucking get it at all.
I don't either.
And you know, it's not just Iglesias. Like I feel that way about Taibbi also.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I mean, a lot of these
Taibbi-
guys. But for years they were able to like walk inside of these spaces where it was like, oh yeah, no, these guys are progressive or have, you know, some kind of modicum of progressive politics or whatever, and like it was so fucking obvious that they didn't. Like I don't know. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. I mean, Taibbi is maybe the best example for me, in my opinion, at least. You know, when I was younger, I read NSFW Corp and you know, a lot of stuff in the Exile, and it's really interesting to see the sort of split between the split of like having some fucking self-respect between Ames and Taibbi. Like Ames is kind of like done a ton of learning and growing and has this great platform now with Radio Warner, and Taibbi is just like shill, you know.
Yeah.
And it's depressing because if you read Taibbi's old stuff, it's not that bad.
I actually own one or two of his books. Like he actually has some okay work too, and then he just
Yeah.
I don't know, mask off.
There was just that shift. I think COVID did lead a lot of these people down this path, but I think before that there was that moment where people correctly identified that Russiagate was a weird thing to hinge your anti-Trump movement on in like the 2016 era, where it was like this is clearly not exactly what we're being led to believe by the media. The walls are not closing in. Clearly they are not. Trump is currently president again. The walls were never closing in. Maybe that's an indictment of our like laws and our country at this point. Maybe there was something there, but it just never felt like there was a hysteria there where these people made this shift from this correct identification that there was this weird media hysteria about things. There were things that Trump was doing that were bad, but the media was not focusing exactly on a lot of that. And I feel like that did make a certain type of person really fucking crazy. And Taibbi is one of those people.
Yeah, COVID and post-COVID were it was interesting to see that split happen. And I was doing a podcast with Riley from Trash Future at the time about Canadian politics basically and Canada's place in the world. And we had Matt Crispin on to talk about the trucker protests.
I loved those. I paid. Yeah.
It was an amazing confluence of like aggrieved boat dealership owners, like petit bourgeois, fucking mom and pop landlords, small business tyrants, and cranks, like QAnon cranks. And it was all, I mean, it's come out now. It is all basically being funded by conservative dark money flowing in from the United States and mingling with the conservative money in Canada.
I'm not even surprised. Holy shit.
And some of the people whose writing and reporting I like on the left, you know, like were like supporting this trucker protest as if it were a spontaneous rejection of like liberal democracy or neoliberalism in the form of like the Canadian Liberal Party.
That mirrors the Tea Party in America very well.
Can you refresh me? I remember that they happened, but what were they asking for? What was their want? Was it like a vaccine thing? What were the truckers mad about?
It was open everything up. Basically like it snowballed from COVID-related griefs to just a broader like we need to bring down the Canadian Liberal Party. Because we live in 1984 or whatever, and I am not defending that. Like the Canadian Liberal Party can eat like they fucking suck. They are a terrible, sclerotic party, like awful.
It's a miracle that they won this recent election.
It's
a genuine miracle.
It's only because of Trump and the guy that they have in. Everybody's sort of being like, it's really funny to see the conservative post-trucker shutting down Ottawa for weeks at a time. Their reaction to Mark Carney, who worked for Goldman Sachs, was the head of the sort of mission, or one of the heads of the mission to Russia that resulted in the 1998 financial meltdown, was the head of the Bank of England during Brexit and was the head of Bank of Canada, that they're like, this guy is Chairman Mao.
I saw people call him Marx
Carney.
Marx Carney. Yeah. No, just incredible stuff. But that was the trucker protests I was fascinated by and paid a lot of attention and talked in spaces at the time to a lot of these trucker protesters, because to me, it was the first moment where I realized that Canadians are not so different from Americans. We have the same cranks out there. We have the same sort of obsession with the weird
Canadian
insanity
conservative
of politics.
Cranks, honestly, are fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
No, I would love to. Is there like is it just QAnon up there too, or is there like a Canadian specific crank group?
There isn't, and that's. I mean, there are. I guess there's Romana Diderot, the Queen of Canada. I don't know if you guys have heard about her, but
no,
didn't she like take over a school or something? Is
that
who I'm thinking of?
She and her followers got run out of town on the East Coast outside of Halifax, I think.
Remember this?
Liv Agar and QAnon Anonymous have done like a great job.
Yeah, I remember listening to that.
Her rise, but that's the one specific Q adjacent like crankery that I can think of that's specifically Canadian. The rest of it, I mean, the thing that's really depressing about Canada is that a lot of it is because it's all absorbed on the internet and there's more content from America. All the big content creators in that sphere are American or European. You get this schizophrenic thing where people are trying to bootstrap American grievances onto a Canadian problem, or what they perceive as a Canadian problem.
That's what it seemed like the trucker protests were, sort of.
Because there is no real Canadian identity when you get right down to it. It's like, what is it? It's Barrick Gold, the genocide of indigenous people, a vague sense of superiority to Americans.
And that seems to be running dry these days.
The Tragically Hip and Tim Hortons. It's, there's nothing there, really. So it's hard to have a nationalist movement when everybody's idea of Canada is slightly different,
Absolutely. I'll have to look more. I would love to find some brand new Canadian cranks. That's not really a world.
We should do a whole episode. We should get Liv back on and do a whole episode on just conservative Canadian cranks. That would be so
I would
fun.
Fucking love that.
I can send you guys some cranks. I mean, there is one guy I'm thinking of who ran for the People's Party of Canada. His name is Nikula Das, and he was like Q adjacent. People's Party is like kind of a grab bag of like people who are too nuts for the Conservative Party. They obviously like ate shit in the elections, but
Nikula got like 2 seats or something like that. If
2 seats, correctly. Yeah. I think their leader Maxime Bernier flamed out. He didn't even win his seat. But Nikula Das, his entire platform was about testicular breathing.
No, what do you mean?
I mean, what I mean is if you breathe through your balls and you don't come,
no,
that yes,
No.
no coming and breathe through your balls, that you will attain like perfect mental clarity.
They've invented a new type of semen retention.
Yeah, ball breathing.
Ball breathing.
That's so sick, dude. I love
That's
that
awesome.
shit.
See, you can't say that Canadians aren't innovating up there. What you got ball breathing. What are you talking about? That's crazy.
That's true. I take it back. We're at the forefront of testicular breathing.
Since we're on Canadian stuff right now, do we want to do the story that you guys were telling me about before?
Yeah, the Black Cube stuff that dude that you kind of got in a feud
flying
with.
completely blind on this.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up, Lola?
Just fuck. I'm sorry. No, the only other thing I wanted to say about the Iranian stuff is just in the context of like journalism and covering it and all that stuff, is that once again, never in doubt, Cy Hirsch is always a man that you can believe his scoops, and it has been for pretty much, I mean, I feel like his whole career. And he was also dead on about this and what was happening. And I also saw him about, at this point, I think it was in 2019 or something, I saw him at a thing with The Intercept and Jeremy Scahill and some people, and he was talking about how they were desperate to do this. I mean, I know they've been desperate to do it for years, but he was like very specifically inside the Trump administration, like very, very desperate to make what's happening now happen. And like, just again, the timeline on this thing, just to go back to the timeline, like, I'm sure all of our listeners we're not surprised that we got involved and like know a lot of the, the desire of the American government, and especially if you know anything about like the Bush and Big Daddy Bush and the last 50 years of American foreign policy, that this was like the devil's chessboard. Yeah, like this is like their desire to do this.
If Donald Trump was really truly an existential threat to like the State Department's 10-year plan or whatever, that fucking kid in Pennsylvania wouldn't have missed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. So true.
That's why it's clearly a setup. That was all allegedly a setup situation. But that was a PR scam.
Right.
That's
he said,
just
I'm not
alleged.
I'm not okaying it, and I'm actually against it. And actually, Iran has 2 weeks, and I'm going to think about it. And then 2 days later, they're sending over the B-2s, to bomb the facilities and stuff. And
didn't Hirsch say that they were going to bomb on the weekend?
He said Hirsch said the exact locations where they bombed, and he also said he was doing it specifically over the weekend because he didn't want to impact the markets on Monday. So, I mean, like,
oh my God! See, all of this, they do all of this shit intentionally. That's the frustrating thing about this whole administration. And then we get news stories of, wow, Pete Hegseth didn't leak it this time. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that sick?
That was bizarre. Like he's like he was just drunk enough to do the job right. Like like he had the perfect equilibrium of like PBR and cognac or whatever.
He finally got his levels proper.
Can I was going to ask you guys, can I read you two statements from two world leaders about this bombing?
Yeah.
That were tweeted out by both world leaders within an hour of each other?
Absolutely.
I'm going to start with Chairman Marx Carney.
Of Canada, of course.
Of Canada. All right. Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security, and Canada has been consistently clear that Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon. When U.S. military action taken last night was designed to alleviate that threat, the situation in the Middle East remains highly volatile. Stability in the region is a priority. Okay. I'm going to go to Keir Starmer, everybody's favorite.
We love him. Another great far left Marxist.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Keir Starmer. All right, here we go. Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security. Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, and the U.S. has taken action to alleviate that threat. The situation in the Middle East remains volatile, and stability in the region is a priority.
Oh my fucking God, no way.
It's exactly the fucking same.
It's the same.
It is the same. So there's like two, either it's ChatGPT or it's they just got an email. You know, like
It's so awesome. It's so fucking awesome to imagine them typing it into ChatGPT, and they're just like, he's just like, strong response to bombing, supportive, not robotic,
not robotic.
Don't use any M dashes.
No M no
M dashes.
Yeah, no anti-Semitism, no M dashes. But yeah, I mean, I read those this morning, and the more I thought about it, the more I was just like, it's funny, but it's also incredibly bleak after, spending, I mean, at least for Canadians have spent the last 5 to 8 years being hit over the head with like rules-based international order, democratic freedoms, like it's us and America against China and Russia, and then just to have these guys robotically spit this shit out as if it's a democracy at all. Like, as if Canada or the UK has any real sovereignty over anything.
And Caleb, I think you said this before, that it's like they don't even have to fucking lie about this anymore. They can just do these things and post a couple of tweets that they got from fucking Grok or whatever. Yeah. And that's all they need to do. There's no consequence for this at all. They will just continue to do it until the blowback is too strong, maybe, which who knows what that'll be? Who knows what that'll look like?
It made me... it's amazing. I actually see it as a sign of that I do have hope for the future, actually, though, because when something like this happens and I become fantastically depressed, I realize that's because there's a difference between my expectations and hope for the future, right? Because it's like not a full acceptance of this reality, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because it made me, like, I was at the bar last night, and like it's on the fucking TV, CNN, it's like the B-2 bombers. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on, man? You know what I mean? And then people are seriously, like, on Twitter, sheltered people, oftentimes liberals, being like, well, am I in danger now? It's like, there's not, like, what we visit upon the world was not even like 1% revisited upon us, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not. And
sleeper cells, though, dude.
Oh yeah, the sleeper cells. Yeah, exactly. They're plotting.
Who are those for? That's 2 days now. There was that initial one a couple of days ago, and then last night they of course did the sleeper cells thing. Who is this trying to? Is this trying to fool someone? Because this is not a real thing. The sleeper cells are not a real thing. It's for the
incoming false flag, baby. Let's go. They're planning 9/11 too. They're planning 9/11 too.
They're going to run back the entire Bush playbook. But this JD Vance says, "Oh, but this time our president isn't dumb." Literally what he said.
Did you see the pictures that they were so desperately trying to recreate, like the Obama Bin Laden raid thing, and it's just like Trump wearing the fucking 45 hat, looking like he just ate an entire General Chow's chicken.
He looks bad. He's looking really ill. Like,
he is.
Like, I'm not body shaming or anything, but he looks...
Don't body shame him.
One thing we don't support is body shaming.
Not fucking body. That is a huge portion of our audience is 75-plus-year-old men.
With just like an enormous deposit of fluid above, like below their neck. I know who the sleeper cell thing is for. It's for people my age. Because I had this fucking horrible realization last night. I went to go see Modest Mouse play at Kemba Live here in Columbus.
They're the sleeper cell.
They are the sleeper cell. And like, Isaac from that band basically have him to thank for a career because he signed Wolf Parade and produced our first record. My first ever tour in America was with Modest Mouse. So last night I saw them play the song Night on the Sun, which is a beautiful song, as I was finding out that Iran was being bombed. And on September 8th, 2001, I went on this tour with them. It was my first tour of America. By the time we got to San Francisco, September 10th, things were cooking, and they played Night on the Sun at that show, the newer song, and such a beautiful song. The next day, obviously, some things happened.
What happened?
Robert Pattinson visited the World Trade Center.
Visited the World Trade Center. Yeah. We canceled the rest of that tour and came back. But it just in that moment, watching them play that song, I was like, oh, for a quarter century, most of my adult life, the U.S. has been in a full bore war with the Middle East, which is like a very dumb, basic thing to say, but it really sunk in. It really hit me, and it was incredibly depressing to look at my phone and see, that those nuclear facilities had been bombed, and see all the jingoism and all the same shit. People running the same playbook, like it's a quarter century before.
I hope. I mean, I was thinking about this today. Also specific. Fuck, I wish I had said that it was actually September 11, 2001 was the day that Nickelback released Silver Side Up. But I wish I had said that. But fuck, I missed that opportunity. But no, I was thinking about this today. It's like what America has felt like for a lot of my life is kind of like a nation that has a desire to be destructive and at war. And there's like one political party that is like maybe holding us back to some extent from that war, but like that we are just like a rabid dog in the world causing all this chaos. And I do hope that the things that we've seen and we're continuing to see like this right now, I do hope it galvanizes people in a new way. Like I do hope people get activated. I mean, I know those years, during Iraq, like was an activated political time, but I'm hoping that because of the circumstances of the last 20 years, 25 years, people are galvanized in a way that is more like direct action and things, because it really like it is on all of us. You know what I mean? Like it's very easy to take away your own culpability, I think, in these things, because you're like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? But like it is on all of us collectively to get into the machinery of this stuff and to jumble it up to make it impossible. Like it is. I really fundamentally believe that at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I mean, from what I can tell, I was obviously just a child still when 9/11 happened, but from just pieces of the past that I looked into and people talking about being an adult in that time, it was a much different environment. People, like young people, were amped up and, went to war with Iraq. People were sent there. Everyone was on board for a while. But there are still some people, especially liberals, that I've noticed online particularly, that are very cool with this recent bombing of Iran. And but it's a totally different
they've been
moment.
Not only conditioned for
this,
this, but they've been promised that we will bomb Iran for whatever, since the 90s or whatever. I was actually just doing a rewatch of The Sopranos, and it's like towards the end when AJ gets depressed right before he attempts to kill himself, he's like talking with Meadow, and he's like, did you know we're gonna bomb Iran? It's like it's been like a fixture in pop culture and everything for so long. Like there are so many.
And they finally did it. They finally did it.
Yeah. But they can't ever, these people can never enjoy when they get what they want. I think that's something that's different from the Bush administration. The Bush administration was just this dead-eyed bulldozer going into the Middle East and, setting up like these massive extractive capitalist octopuses with Halliburton and just like bleeding taxpayer money into it. And these guys are just clowns. So it's like every time they get a win, they seem to get more depressed and angry. And I don't know why that is. I don't know whether it's because they don't actually have an ideology and the people in the Bush administration did have an ideology. I don't know, but it's really interesting to watch them get exactly what they want and then piss their pants.
Yeah, and it's a truly an eternal George Bush cultural victory. The modern, it's quite astounding to me. I was thinking about this recently, where it's astounding that at the end of the day, like, Donald Trump's term is quite far right. It's really, a lot of the people under the movement, the supporters, are very openly fascistic.
Yeah.
But Trump's ultimate the agenda he's ultimately pushing forward is very neocon, at least when abroad, when it comes to foreign policy. He's following like the neocon path, and it's wild that he's been able to portray himself as different than that up until maybe now, because he's very clearly the same foreign policy path that past administrations have gone through. And it's fascinating he was able to just charisma his way out of that acknowledgement.
Yeah, I mean it's the same playbook for like we were saying however long ago. I'll just tell you this: it's from the 1996 episode. I just Googled it. Simpsons episode "Two Bad Neighbors."
Oh,
the Ayatollah Asahola shirt.
Can we get rid of this Ayatollah T-shirt? Khomeini died years ago.
But Marge, it works on any Ayatollah. Ayatollah Nakbada, Ayatollah Zahedi. Even as we speak, Ayatollah Razmara and his cadre of fanatics are consolidating their power.
I had an actual Ayatollah Asahola shirt when I was like in high school. And it's just
amazing.
funny to think about how like I went from owning that shirt, which was obviously a gimmick, but still it was like a thing back then, to now I'm like, kind of want the Ayatollah to win this war, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, and it's not even that. It's just when does doing the aggression against these countries in the Middle East, when has it ever worked out? There's just never been a time that it has ever worked out for the United States hegemony.
Yeah, I mean, the cui bono is, the people in power that benefit are the weapons contractors and their buddies and the revolving door, and Dick Cheney became a billionaire from the Iraq War.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a cash cow for all of them. They don't give a shit at all.
Yeah.
Especially in a time when, the American or I got to stop saying American. I would say North American economy in general doesn't produce anything. It produces fraud schemes, and weapons.
Crypto.
It produces more and more Byzantine ways to defraud people. And then it produces weapons. And not even all that well, like with the war in Ukraine, like all of that stock over the last couple of years of it being a quote unquote dumb war and a war being fought with artillery. It's like Iran is the perfect thing for American weapons contractors, because they can sell F-35s, they can sell THAAD systems, suborbital air defense batteries and shit like that. And that's all the sexy stuff that you can add a bunch of pork to when you're like baking it. And everybody
it's
makes
incredible.
money.
I was when I graduated from college, there was a 4-month period where I worked as a business analyst at a small veteran-owned defense contracting company that made like computers.
Wow.
And it was like my first. I mean, I was there for a couple months. And basically what I learned doing that job was how the contracting system works on like Fed Biz Ops and stuff, which now you have to actually have a company that you work for. It used to be the case that anybody could just like go on Fed Biz Ops and bid on federal contracts. It's not the case anymore.
Really?
Yeah, which is actually how that story War Dogs, that movie with like Jonah Hill, happened. Was basically, it used to be like totally unregulated. And then it became a little bit more regulated. But basically the point was, the way the entire industry works is the guy that was my boss went to this conference at the end of the fiscal year. We are primarily, like, the guys were all former Navy guys. So it was for like the commandant of the Navy was at this meeting talking about the budget and basically saying, we have $6 billion we haven't spent, and we need to spend it in the next 2 weeks. So we need to figure out how to spend it. And we have these designations like veteran-owned small business, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, women's small business, like all these different things. And they just pour it into basically jacked up fake contracts. Like, they, a company like Northrop Grumman that has 100 people working on like one team has the ability to win a contract, charge the government, $50 million, and then subcontract it out to smaller companies for like 1/10 of the price, basically.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. And the number one most important thing in the military for contracts and how to win contracts is price. So anybody who serves in the military has familiarity with this, where they're like, oh, U.S. military shit is all junk. It's because they'll have like 50 boxes you need to check to make a product, like a computer, let's say. But if we check 48 of the boxes and the next guy checks like 5 of the boxes, but he is cheaper, they'll go with the cheaper option.
Right.
So that's like the entire, so it's just, it's a nightmare. Like, it's completely corrupt. It's totally fucked. Anyway, I don't know.
I mean, it's easy if you're a Canadian weapons procurement division, because basically what you do is you get a no bid contract from Lockheed Martin, and you spend billions of dollars on F-35s to do Arctic defense, even though they can't take off. They're not rated for temperature. And then you're done. That's it. Easy. And then your government is like, elbows up. We're doing Canadian sovereignty.
Just a very, very bleak state of the militarized world that we live in. Holy shit. I mean, Palantir, I would love to, like, not this episode, but at some point go into how insane Palantir is. I feel like that's the ultimate weapons manufacturer. Well, I don't think they manufacture weapons, but they manufacture systems for these militaries and pretty much the whole world at this point.
Aren't they essentially putting Palantir, or like just Silicon Valley people are now being sort of rolled into the upper level of the DoD? And like,
yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but they basically have like a special computer boy division where they like have this is I'm not kidding. I read an article about this.
Computer boy is that good.
Yeah, they have when they bring in like guys that are like obviously in no way, shape, or form fighting. They're in their 30s, 40s, whatever, doughy, but they're just
the real
like
keyboard warriors.
Yeah, but their job is to like how can we systemize Eichmann going to Jerusalem, right? Like how do we make this like computer boy? Anyway,
they ask you how many bored apes you have before you can apply. Yeah.
I will say though, it seems like more people are at least getting more comfortable like bullying these people socially. I think that is really important. Like I do think you genuinely need to do this. Like people, let people know that they work for the death factory, like I think that's valuable.
You guys remember those ads that the CIA put out a couple years ago?
The woke CIA?
The woke CIA, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of weapons contractors attempt that, but like kind of, I think there was such a huge backlash against that they gave up,
Yeah, they're definitely not doing that in 2025 anymore. No, that's left the zeitgeist.
Did you see the tweet that was like, I don't even want to say it, but did you see the tweet that was like, we're going to war with Iran because a guy wanted to say gay retard at work?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, I saw that. Like, that's why Donald Trump won. Because like finance guys. Yeah. They wanted to say slurs again. Absolutely. I saw like after Liberation Day, there was a lot of people that were like, I wonder how that guy feels now. Like those people that want to say just slurs that were like, this
they
is
lost
the most
their
job.
They lost their job.
They're
homeless.
Yeah, they've been automated out of a job.
Now we have ChatGPT saying the slurs for them. So we've been going for a while, but I would like to cover at least two quick stories. Caleb, the 50501 story. You were talking about this like a little while ago. I feel like it flew under the radar for most of the media. And I feel like you followed this one very closely and you know the most about it. Do you want to kind of lead us on talking about this? Just because I feel like most of our audience has no fucking clue what this is.
I don't need to read it, but
okay.
So 5051, if you don't know what it is, it was like it started out at least as like an organic, started out on like a Reddit. It's like the idea is 50 states, 50 protests on one day. Okay. So it started out by, and the original founder of this, he's definitely just a guy, just a Redditor. He's like very much not equipped to have been like the founder of this. So much so, in fact, that he actually got kicked out of the movement entirely. He was locked out of all the socials. They took everything from him.
I love an internal battle for like an advocacy group.
I'll have to look. His name is like Mystic_Fungi or something like that. I looked at his page. He's like kind of doing this like founder in exile thing on his page, which is very funny. But in any case, so this essentially what happens is like this kind of it's one of the political revolutions adjacent PACs kind of swallows this all up. And they take over, which is probably for the best because you do have to have some sort of organization at some point. But essentially, the way that it works,
these are pretty big protests, from what I can gather.
Yeah, I mean, there were each state was independently organized, and that's very crucial because what happened in Utah was not necessarily the fault of the national organizers and such. But essentially what happened was they had like a yellow jacket volunteer security thing where like the protests have their own cops and we're going to community police or something. And
like
they
Chaz.
say, what's that?
Like Chaz.
Yeah, dude, hell
Exactly.
yeah. That worked out great. Just like this did. So the 5051 National claims that they said don't show up to these armed, but one of their volunteers did. And essentially what happened was there was a kid, and his name, I am going to pull that up and I'm going to have to edit this because I don't have the article up yet. But there was a kid who brought his AR to a protest, and he'd been doing this for quite a while. He'd been going to protests in the area with his gun. That's like a not super common, but it's like, you know, if you go far enough left, you get your guns back is kind of the saying. So you'd see that kind of thing pretty normal. But this like security, whatever, the yellow jacket security from 5051 sees this kid with an AR, thinks it's a mass shooter, and their like guy just pulls out his handgun and unloads it into a crowd. He kills one person, he injures another, and he kind of grazes the not the shooter. He didn't shoot anybody, but like the kid with the AR. And essentially 5051 at that point the next day, they defamed. Man, should we just read the article? I know we're past the hour,
Yeah,
but
just
I don't want to
get
get
the
this wrong
important
because it's
bits.
kind of important.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to cut all of that and just pretend like I'm going to pull up this article. It's somebody died, so I just want to make sure the details are correct. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to be flippant about that.
Yeah, you can cut in like around that point with that detail. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the article. The National 5051 organization has cut ties with the Salt Lake City branch following the deadly shooting at the Salt Lake City protest that occurred June 14th. A man identified as a, quote, peacekeeper working as a safety volunteer at the protest opened fire after he reportedly saw a man later identified as 24-year-old Arturo Gamboa carrying an AR-15 rifle. 39-year-old Afa Ah Loo was hit in the crossfire and later died of his injuries. Gamboa has been arrested and is facing homicide charges, and the peacekeeper is not in custody currently. So, again, the kid that had brought his gun to protest before, didn't shoot anybody, he's actually the one that is in custody as of this recording for homicide, not the guy who actually opened fire to the crowd.
He's been at these events before with firearms,
yes.
And there was like he didn't just pop off. This wasn't like a weird premeditated thing. This just seems to be a weird mistake.
I don't know if this article, because this is one of several articles, so if I repeat this as I read this, I apologize. But the peacekeeper, quote unquote, which I hate using that fucking term in this context, claims that Arturo had his AR in like a readied position, like he'd pointed it up. Security footage immediately debunks this. He never did, and also police later would confirm that Arturo's rifle was completely unloaded. So, in any case, that's what actually happened. Let me continue with the article.
So he just he just unloaded in this.
Yeah, the guy was
shit.
very clearly very much not equipped to deal with the situation. He saw somebody with an AR, assumed it was going to be a mass casualty event, and then created his own mass casualty event. Previously, Utah 5051 stated that the peacekeeper was a safety volunteer with the organization and a military veteran. They said the man was selected as a volunteer because of his military first responder and other de-escalation experience. The National 5051 organization made the announcement that they were cutting ties with the SLC branch in a social media post. Again, I talked about this before we cut it, but like it's very important to understand that initially the National 5051 charter posted that Afa Ah Loo was the one who died. He was actually shot and killed by not the peacekeeper, but by the third person that was shot, who's not named in this article. So they defamed him basically and said that he had been the one who'd done the shooting. So it's a complete clusterfuck. And then they did something that I thought was, the reason that we're even talking about this is because I got so fucking mad on Blue Sky or whatever. 5051 National posts a link to Afa Ah Loo's GoFundMe. Like, hey, we killed a guy. Let's chip in and all, make sure that
everyone
his
come
funeral
together.
costs are taken. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
let's
insane.
do some
It was
community
just the
work
most
here.
tone deaf and sensitive thing I've ever seen. And like, I got a little bit of clapback from some like, you know, no kings libs or whatever, which is like fine. I think that like these big movements are going to have a confluence of different opinions, but like, I don't know, like if I was, if I was in charge, if I was on the steering committee or on the board, because this is a nonprofit or whatever, of an organization that resulted in the death of a person, the first thing that I would do is make sure that any funds that we'd taken in went to this guy's family, and then I would fucking resign. I would not link the GoFundMe. That is fucking crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. What?
And
Why?
they basically handed
the...
on a silver platter like the conservative wet dream story that they're going to beat over our heads for fucking 6 months. Anytime there's ever a protest, they're going to, you know.
But that's kind of the interesting thing with this one was it's not really been seized upon by right-wingers in any meaningful way from what I've noticed, primarily because of the Minnesota like political assassination that we just had. I mean, we haven't talked about it. It's kind of in the past at this point, but these kind of happened around the same time, and right-wingers have hinged themselves to the insane conspiracy theory one about Tim Walz, and not so much the actual. I mean, maybe it's because it was just like kind of an actual tragedy that seemed to be a complete accident from all I can tell, and like a very a misplay by the organization itself. And maybe they prefer people to be hinged to the conspiracy theory ones. But from what I can tell, like the right hasn't really dabbled into this at all.
I think that they're waiting to confirm that. Like it wasn't actually Arturo wasn't actually a mass shooter. He wasn't, and we know that. But he's still, again, as of recording, today's what, June 22nd. So you know, I think they're kind of waiting to make sure that it actually is what it looks like before seizing upon it. Tim Pool did post about it once. I'm not on Twitter very often anymore, so I don't really see, but I just have a feeling they're just kind of waiting for the dust to settle before they use this as a cudgel to beat over our heads indefinitely.
Yeah, they're waiting for their moment. Yeah, that might be the case. Yeah.
With the Minnesota stuff, I feel like it's just completely been forgotten about. It's been overshadowed by the war with Iran, which okay, fair enough, but
it's just a constant deluge of everything. But it's so hard to keep track of everything.
As soon as that happened, it was just really kind of stomach turning, or just like it made me feel bad to watch conservative people sort of coalesce around this idea that this was a targeted assassination by leftist Democrats when it's so clearly not. And now I feel like that's just the story for them. That is a real example of like a break in consensus reality, which I know a lot of people talk about, but that's a great example of it. It's just all right there, and and
there's just going to be no way to really counter that for a significant chunk of people. I was at that happened right on Father's Day, or the day before Father's Day, and I was seeing my father, and you know, I love talking politics with my right wing father, and that came up. I forget in what context I brought it up to him, but he was like, "Oh yeah, wasn't he like a Democrat? Wasn't he like appointed by Tim Walz?" And I'm like, I didn't even see that yet. He was so tuned in. He knew the conspiracy before I even was tuned in, and I like to pride myself about being pretty tuned into like online discourse. But he was far ahead of me. These networks, they build a different reality that so many people live in, and it's wild how efficient they've become.
I don't know if Lolo is going to be back for the rest of this episode. Just as an update, he texted me, Mossad has hit me with the diarrhea gun.
Oh,
no. Oh, God.
That's unfortunate.
Really bad that he could have retaliated against military bases, but he got him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, no worries. But no, that's just like a weird tragedy. There's that 50-51 case. Hopefully, I'm hoping right-wingers just don't like kind of forget about it. I hope that's just sort of
that's just
in the open.
I mean, it's a tragedy all around. Afa Ah Loo's family was beautiful. He seemed like a really genuinely wonderful guy. I mean, there's no other word than just tragedy. I try to just kind of remember that when I get really mad about this. Like, don't make it about your like political grievances against liberals, because like this is actually just
sucks. Yeah,
people
terrible.
Died.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we were going pretty long, but you were, Dan, talking to me about the Canadian spy for Israel.
I was really
that was
hoping that we would get to this. I know it's
All
life.
right,
Can we? If you guys are cool with going just a little bit longer, I would love.
I want to hear it. Yeah.
I can try.
I would love. I feel like you're an expert on this too. It sounds like you have a little bit of a history with this guy.
Well,
at least online.
I fucking hate this guy for reasons which will be. I don't hate a lot of people, and this guy really don't like this guy. I think a good way to, and I'll try and keep this moving along as fast as I can, but I think a good way to look at this story is that this is a story of two different things. This is a story of how absolutely hollowed out and porous and decrepit Canadian media is. Because the guy we're going to talk about is not just a serial fabulist. He is also a frequent contributor to the National Post, which is one of two major newspapers. Is
that like a New York Post type of thing where it's sort of sensationalist, not super serious journalism, or is it like it's like a real thing? It's like a real
thing.
outfit.
It's a real newspaper. They lean a little more conservative than the other big newspaper, which is Globe and Mail, but that's like really splitting hairs. So it's a story about that, and it's also a story about how Canadians get news about Israel. So there's a guy named Adam Givo who popped up around the time about a year after Russia invaded Ukraine. He showed up in Ukraine and started reporting on stuff from Odessa and Kiev, mainly Kiev, mainly these big sort of hotels that they were hosting journalists in. And I was pretty plugged into the Ukraine conflict at the time. And the thing I noticed about this guy is that he would never talk to anybody who was of any importance. And he didn't seem to know anything about geopolitics or Ukraine or really anything. His reporting is, I could describe it as Thomas Friedman with like a CTE. Like his reporting is, it's not journalism. It's always filed under op-ed pieces. And basically he just makes up, well, I'm claiming this. I think he just makes up people that he talks to. He describes them in this really weird, excruciating detail, and then their points sort of align with whatever greater point he is being paid to make or wants to make, based on his own bizarre political beliefs. I'm going to give an example. So Adam is in Israel right now. This is the second time he's been to Israel. I think he's been invited to Israel twice by the same person, who is Vivian Berkovici, who is the ex-Israeli ambassador, or the ex-Canadian ambassador to Israel. I'm going to read one of Adam's dispatches from Israel, one of his hard-hitting, journalistic dispatches. This is from a couple days ago. I stopped by a Jerusalem corner store to buy some chocolate. The owner, a rugged dude, was pouring.
He's been around the block.
Yeah, was pouring himself some Arak anise liqueur. Wrong. Arak is not a liqueur, my friend. He was pouring himself some Arak to end the day. He poured me some too, and we pounded it back. That's not how you drink. Mix it with water. But
I love that this guy walked in to this situation. He's like, "Hey, you want some of this?
You want some of this shit? You look hard. I'm rugged. You look hard." When he learned I was Canadian, he asked me why my country has so much anti-Semitism. I'm saying straight out that this never happened. That
no way.
This is just he filed something for National Post recently about people dealing with the Iranian strike on Israel, not mentioning anything about how it started or any context, just real man on the street shit. And he described this he loves shopkeepers and taxi drivers, but he described another shopkeep as having a thick Israeli accent. He's in fucking Tel Aviv. It's amazing.
No, all of these people, that person was super made up. So, I mean, this guy, I think you'll get into it soon, but this person is essentially what is a paid propagandist for Israel. Yeah.
So should I get into the spy thing, or should we talk about why? Maybe I'll end with the spy thing. But
yeah.
So basically, this woman, Vivian Berkovici, she is the ex-Israeli ambassador or Canadian ambassador to Israel. She got the post in 2014, and she flamed out pretty hard because, and this is pretty well documented, she set up what the Canadian government started calling a shadow embassy outside the actual embassy, our Canadian embassy in Tel Aviv. And she was holding meetings there. No one really knows what she was doing there. And the Canadian government was basically like, hey, like, you're the ambassador. You can't do that. You can't be running your own operation. So in response, she sued the government, I think for defamation, and then to as if to prove her innocence, stepped down and immediately started working for Black Cube.
And
for
this
those
organization,
who
I wasn't
don't know, what is Black Cube?
Yeah, I didn't find out about this until you were telling me about this.
Black Cube is like a private intelligence firm that is staffed mainly, they claim, by like ex-Israeli intelligence Mossad people, and that's kind of a marketing thing for them. They're like,
Didn't Harvey Weinstein use it to like stalk his accusers or whatever?
He sure did. That was when most people found out about Black Cube, was Weinstein got busted hiring them to discredit his accusers. So.
Yeah. They actually were they were around my apartment earlier today. They were shooting me with the diarrhea gun.
Oh, dude.
Fucking Black Cube.
That's awful. Sorry.
Sorry. But it's a very upstanding organization, clearly. If you know, all of these evil, like, sex pests, fucking freaks are turning to this organization to discredit their opponents. That's usually what you want to hear. I
just realized it's the perfect business because Mossad is also the agency that has all of the sex pest tapes. So like, you know, it's like we know what you did. Hire us to fix it.
Yeah,
but
it's quite the racket they have.
Yeah. But Berkovici started this. Presumably, she doesn't work for Black Cube anymore. No one knows. But she started this media outlet, basically an outlet that is training and teaching Canadian journalists about Israel, and it's called Exodus. And she, earlier during this war, she brought over Adam and a bunch of other, a handful of like the worst goblins in Canadian media. This guy Warren Kinsella, just like extreme, sort of, I would say extreme right-wing conservative columnists.
So it's kind of like the Free Press, but for Canada.
Yeah. Basically. So bringing them over to have teaching moments and lessons. And that's what Adam is doing in Israel right now. And mainly he's just been filing these man on the street things, and also weirdly fetishizing. He's gay, so the conservatives love him because he is an anti-trans conservative gay.
Oh, perfect. That's perfect. He's a LGB.
Yeah, he's
activist.
No T. No.
Right wingers are all into that right now. They're a good like proxy for the culture war. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he's been running around posting pictures of like guys working on the beach being like, I can't believe how hot Israeli men are. This is in the middle of a war and a genocide. I can't believe how hot these Israeli men are. We need to institute conscription in Canada.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
That was a recent banger.
Oh God.
But I don't know what he's actually going to produce, from this trip to Tel Aviv. My real issue with him is more of his domestic reporting. He's basically been on the forefront of making the safe supply program in Canada a political wedge issue, and it's been very successful. Like he will run smear pieces on clinics doing safe supply. and use the same kind of thing that he's using in Twitter, which is basically making shit up. So he will publish something in the National Post, and then doctors and social workers and people involved in the sort of bureaucratic network that does deliver, that does handle safe supply will fact check him, and then the paper will issue 5-6 corrections on a piece that he's done. But it doesn't matter. It totally doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all just to build consensus or like a narrative. Yeah, essentially.
But this part of his work, quote unquote work, has been so successful that like the NDP in British Columbia, which has a huge problem with affordability for housing, so there's a lot of unhoused people and there's a lot of opiates. The NDP in BC, which is ostensibly the left-wing party, has been kind of browbeaten into accepting involuntary detox as part of their platform, which means if you get picked up for, being unhoused, you will see a nurse practitioner, and if they decide that you're on heroin or whatever, you will be strapped to a bed for 48 hours.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah, and that's the left-wing party. So that's what his work is.
From what I can tell, it's pretty bleak up there for the NDP. I know Jagmeet Singh has kind of tarnished himself over the last year. I don't think he's the leader anymore, if I remember correctly, right?
He's not, and he actually, this is offside, but he did one of the most humiliating things I've ever seen, which was he went to the Kendrick show in Toronto, and Drake DM'd him and was like, bro, what the fuck?
He had to apologize.
You're a goof. And he apologized publicly on Instagram, and it was so pathetic.
How are you beaten into submission to apologize to Drake? He's like the one safe guy to make fun of just for the last year. Pretty astounding.
And he's not head of the party anymore, so there's like fucking nothing at stake. Yeah. There's nothing at stake here.
He just like really wants to hang with Drake.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, what a beautiful world that we live in. Holy shit. This is a fucking amazing world.
It is a wonderful world. Should I tell the story about Adam's work with the Ukrainian intelligence service?
Please. Please.
Yeah.
All right. So this is just to give you an idea of who is getting a job writing, telling people like my dad what to think about Israel and safe supply program. This is the character of this person. So a couple of years, or no, I guess it was last year, the Canadian intelligence agency CSIS published this massive brief. It was called Elicitation, and it was a guide for Canadians traveling abroad to not be suckered in to giving away state secrets, because the Canadian intelligence agency, CSIS, believes that Canadians abroad are like the sweetest plum for our biggest enemies. Which
You'll
would
just say anything. You'll give all the secrets.
China and Russia. And like, to get a sense of how they got this across, one of the bullet points in their brief about staying safe as a Canadian abroad was entitled, "You are worth targeting," and R is capitalized. Which is so funny to me because, yeah, again, it's Canadians kind of puffing themselves up. But so they put out this ridiculous brief, and everybody was kind of making fun of it, myself included. And Adam Givo jumped in and said, actually, this is great advice, because when I was in Odessa visiting my boyfriend and reporting on the Ukraine war, I actually worked for one of the two branches of Ukrainian intelligence, the SBU, to do a sting operation on a Chinese national. And
an insane thing to admit.
On Twitter. So I was like, all right, I already fucking hate this guy. Like, there are two options here. Like, one, he's lying, or two, this is an insane breach of like journalistic ethics, right? You're there on behalf of a national newspaper reporting, and you are working with intelligence. Like, did you disclose it to the paper? So I just put that out there, and to my surprise, very late at night, he wrote what I would describe as like an Adderall post. It was like five. He's got a fucking check mark or whatever. So it was like 5 pages of this story where he is approached by a Chinese man in a furniture store at a mall in Odessa and gets a bad feeling. Then goes back to his apartment, presumably, like I'm adding this part, but presumably he's just railing whatever he's on when he's posting this too.
He can't stop thinking about the Chinese guy.
And stop thinking about the Chinese man
He gave me
who
a weird
approached
look.
him.
Why was he asking how I was doing?
Exactly. And he finds out some what he feels are suspicious gaps in this guy's personal history. He's going through social media. He's going left. He's going right.
Do you ever just like meet someone on the street and be like, I need to stalk this guy?
Exactly. And bear in mind, this is all under the umbrella of Adam saying that yes, Canadians are a threat abroad. And it's like, or Canadians are threatened abroad when you know he's the one doing it. So he digs up all this stuff on this guy. He feels like this guy's backstory on the line doesn't make sense. And he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to contact Canadian intelligence and Ukrainian domestic intelligence, and I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to invite him to a chain restaurant that's basically like the spaghetti factory of Ukraine. It's called Kompot. And I'm going to invite him for dinner there, and I'm going to get him. So he somehow, according to him, so like, I don't know if this is true or not. I kind of feel like, part of me feels like this might be a giant fabrication that he got in too deep on. But he says that he went to this restaurant, was wearing a wire.
From who? From
the fucking SBU. He claims that he claims that an intelligence agency who is not only in the middle of a war because they've been invaded and is getting that in a city that is getting regularly bombed and is also having an interdepartmental open like armed conflict with the other intelligence agency, the GUR, that they took time out to talk to Adam, who does not speak Ukrainian, and be like, you know what, this Chinese guy, let's fucking get him. Got a good nose, you know? So he claims he had dinner with this guy, and this is interesting. In his original post, he claimed that the guy offered him a brownie, which I can
laced. That's laced. It's an attack. Chemical
I can
attack.
read Cyrillic, so I went and looked at the Compo chain menu. They do not serve brownies, so I mean,
got him.
That he
No, this is just all part of the plan. This is all an op. This is the Chinese man trying to get him.
Yeah, maybe he brought it from home. I don't know, but he said that he ate the brownie and that he felt weird for the next 4 or 5 days, and that his boyfriend took care of him. So he was basically claiming that he got poisoned. But then in subsequent retellings of this story, the brownie disappeared, and this guy Luc Lebrun, who works for Press Progress, got on top of this and interviewed Adam. And it turns out Adam changed his story and said, actually, I approached the Chinese man because I heard him speaking English. And I thought his tattoos were cool and was surprised to find out that he had lived in Ontario, where I had also lived. And that made me suspicious. So if Adam is telling the truth, he heard a guy speaking English, was like, that's a Chinese guy, cool. And then was like, wait a minute, he's up to no good.
That's crazy. Yeah,
and
that's too suspicious.
And then
this is not right.
And then unleashed the an intelligence agency that's in the middle of a open conflict with another country. Or he made it all up. One of the two things.
See, this is the thing, is I hope he didn't make this up. I feel like he probably did, but I really hope that he saw a Chinese man just being kind to him. He was just like, hey, how's it going? Yeah. And he's like, dude, this is fucked up. I can't. I like that. It terrified him.
I can't abide by
freaked
this.
Out. Yeah.
This Chinese man lived in Ontario. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I feel like the real reality is he probably did make this person up, though, especially if he's just openly talking about it. I feel like if you actually did work for several intelligence operations with wires, you were wired by them. I feel like you can't just say stuff like this.
No, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense about his time in Ukraine. Like, there's obviously this insane story, and there's the fact that he is constant. It's part of his brand backdrop is this boyfriend that he has in Odessa, who is exactly the age to be mobilized, which is like the sort of main issue with Ukraine. I don't know if you guys ever read Events in Ukraine, the Substack by Peter Korotayev, but it's like kind of the best reporting on Ukraine. He's Ukrainian. He lived there, like, but yeah, the biggest thing is like mobilization. And Adam has never written an article on Ukraine about mobilization. He's never been like, I'm worried my boyfriend's going to be mobilized. And I know there's a big carve out for people who work for NGOs. They manage to, like, so if you work for a Western NGO, you will not be mobilized. You're exempt. But anyway, this is the caliber of reporting in the paper of record. A guy who is either lying about doing a spy operation or entrapping a Chinese man at a furniture store.
I think the common thread through all of these things we talked about today is just the general awful fucking state of the media, that these are the people that are like being hired by these different organizations. These are the people that are getting stories. They're able to just be spies and also journalists at the same time. And like there's no pretext to that anymore. They don't have to like justify it. They are just able to, and everyone just fucking lies about everything and builds consent for war all the time, and like Iran and all this stuff. So it's the media is fucking insane.
Yeah,
and sadly, Tucker Carlson. Oh, I'm not even gonna hand it to him. Yeah. I'm not even for just like the few gotchas he had on Ted Cruz.
Maybe that's the difference between the early Iraq, the early Great War on Terror era, and this, because it does seem very similar. It seems like the same playbook.
Yeah,
but I do feel like the real scum were pushing the Iraq War. Back in 2003, 2002.
They're all dead. They're all dead, baby.
But people like David Frum maybe believed in something, even if it was just, their career. And now I feel like these low-rent scumbags like Adam, who are getting paid by the ex-ambassador to Israel to go and talk about how hot the guys are doing it for the clicks. And that is depressing. That's real depressing. I mean,
the propaganda game has definitely evolved over the years.
There's no prestige anymore.
No, it's just all about like, I mean, you see this all the time with like Israeli propaganda. It's always like very beautiful women posting on TikTok with like a rifle, being like, "Do you want to sit here with me? Well, I'm an Israeli." It's like it's stuff like that. It's like that's the kind of propaganda for like Israel. It's totally evolved. It's kind of been fleshed out for the modern like social media age. It's very bleak and insane.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to be wrapping up here. Is there anything you want to plug in particular, Dan? Thank you for coming on. Also,
thank you so much.
Yeah,
of course. It's always nice to meet a fellow Pacific Northwester. Somebody who understands the yearly battle to not end your own life.
The big gray. Yeah, I actually today's the longest day of summer has passed. And someone on Reddit was just like, "Yeah, dude, get ready because it's coming back already. Like mathematically, the days are going to be short again." And I'm just like, "No, dude, I'm not ready."
The cloud cover is just inching ever lower over Tacoma.
The fog. I haven't even done anything cool yet. I'm such a piece of shit because like this is the spot to be, right? The Pacific Northwest, when it's good, is like fantastic. I have not gone fishing. I have not gone hiking. I haven't done anything outside because I've just been a lazy fucking piece of shit. And now already the days are getting shorter and it's raining.
Got to get it in now, man. Get it in now. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah. Really nice to meet you, Dan.
Nice to meet you, too. Plugging stuff, I guess you could follow me on Twitter or Instagram, and I have a Patreon, so I am in a confusing amount of bands, but anytime I do demos or decide that I want to write, like, for instance, a soundtrack to Day of the Triffids, I put it up on Patreon. There's just a huge amount of stuff up there, and sometimes they stream. So, yep, that's about it. Come see my band if we play in your town.
Amazing. I will keep an eye out. It's been a couple of years. I think before before we started recording. It's been about half a decade since I've seen you perform. So I'll make my way out if I ever see you in the area.
Yeah, I'll be around. I mean, I'm basically local.
Yeah, that's true.
Ohio. Yeah.
It's very close. Awesome. I think that's it. Anyone have anything else?
That's it. I think Lolo's still he's gone. Mossad got him.
Mossad. Okay.
Succumb to the Mossad diarrhea energy weapon.
This is more dangerous than the heart attack gun that they used on Bernie in 2020. It's very scary. But thank you for listening.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Next time.
See ya.
Yeah.